Neil Postman's Amusing Ourselves to Death Public Discourse in the Age of Show Business, published in 1985, remains a prescient and unsettling analysis of the shift in public discourse from an emphasis on rational argument and informed debate to entertainment and spectacle. The book, deeply rooted in media ecology and cultural criticism, explores how the dominance of television, with its inherent bias towards visual appeal and emotional engagement, fundamentally altered the nature of political, religious, and educational communication. Postman's central thesis posits that television, unlike print, inherently trivializes content, transforming serious subjects into easily digestible, entertaining segments, thereby undermining the public's capacity for critical thought and reasoned judgment. To understand the intellectual genesis of Amusing Ourselves to Death, one must consider the historical context of media theory and the anxieties surrounding the rise of television in the mid-20th century. Marshall McLuhan's work, particularly Understanding Media: The Extensions of Man, published in 1964, exerted a profound influence on Postman's thinking. McLuhan famously argued that the medium is the message, emphasizing the form of communication over its content and suggesting that each medium shapes our perceptions and understanding of the world in distinct ways. While McLuhan focused on the technological determinism of media, Postman extended this analysis to explore the cultural and political consequences of media's influence. In addition to McLuhan, Postman drew inspiration from the Frankfurt School of Critical Theory, particularly the work of thinkers like Theodor Adorno and Max Horkheimer, who examined the role of mass media in promoting consumerism and social control. These intellectual predecessors provided Postman with a framework for analyzing the ways in which media technologies shape consciousness and influence social behavior. Postman's work also stands as a response to critiques of mass culture leveled by figures such as Dwight MacDonald, whose essays in Politics and Against the American Grain lamented the decline of high culture and the rise of vulgar entertainment. MacDonald's elitist perspective contrasted sharply with Postman's more nuanced analysis, which acknowledged the potential benefits of popular media, while simultaneously warning against its potential to degrade public discourse. Postman recognized that mass media could be a powerful tool for education and social change, but he argued that its inherent bias towards entertainment often undermines its capacity to promote critical thinking and informed citizenship. Amusing Ourselves to Death meticulously charts the historical transition from a print-based culture to an image-saturated media landscape. Postman argues that the rise of print in the 18th and 19th centuries fostered a culture of literacy, rationality, and civic engagement. The printed word, with its emphasis on logic, precision, and nuance, encouraged readers to develop critical thinking skills and to engage in reasoned debate. Public discourse during this period, exemplified by the Lincoln-Douglas debates, was characterized by lengthy, substantive arguments and a high level of intellectual engagement from both speakers and audiences. The advent of photography and telegraphy in the 19th century marked the beginning of a shift towards a more visually oriented and information-saturated culture. Photography, with its ability to capture and disseminate images rapidly, began to challenge the dominance of print as a primary source of information and entertainment. The telegraph, by enabling instant communication across vast distances, created a sense of immediacy and simultaneity that transformed our experience of time and space. However, Postman contends that it was television that truly revolutionized public discourse, fundamentally altering the Television, according to Postman, is inherently biased towards entertainment. Its visual nature, its reliance on narrative and emotional appeal, and its fragmented format make it ill-suited for conveying complex ideas or promoting rational debate. Television programs are designed to capture and hold the viewer's attention, often at the expense of intellectual substance. News programs, for example, are increasingly presented as entertainment, with an emphasis on sensationalism, visual spectacle, and superficial analysis. Political discourse on television is similarly trivialized, with candidates judged more on their charisma and image than on their policies or qualifications. Postman's analysis extends beyond politics and news to encompass religion and education. He argues that television has transformed religion into a form of entertainment, with televised preachers and megachurches offering viewers a spectacle of faith that is often devoid of genuine spiritual depth. Education, too, has been affected by the rise of television, with schools increasingly adopting entertainment-oriented teaching methods in an effort to engage students who have been conditioned to expect constant stimulation. The consequences of this shift towards entertainment are profound. According to Postman, a society that prioritizes amusement over reason is a society that is vulnerable to manipulation and susceptible to tyranny. When public discourse is reduced to a form of entertainment, citizens become passive consumers of information rather than active participants in the democratic process. Critical thinking skills atrophy, and the ability to discern truth from falsehood diminishes. The impact of Amusing Ourselves to Death upon its publication was considerable. The book quickly gained a wide readership and sparked a national debate about the role of television in shaping American culture. Postman became a sought-after commentator on media and technology, and his ideas influenced a generation of media critics and scholars. The book also faced its share of criticism. Some critics argued that Postman's analysis was overly pessimistic and deterministic, failing to acknowledge the potential benefits of television and other forms of mass media. Others accused him of romanticizing the past, overlooking the limitations and inequalities of print-based culture. Despite these criticisms, Amusing Ourselves to Death remains a highly influential and relevant work. Its central thesis, that the medium shapes the message and that television is inherently biased towards entertainment, continues to resonate in an age of digital media and social networking. The rise of the internet and social media has only amplified the trends that Postman identified in the 1980s. The internet, with its endless stream of information and entertainment, has created an even more fragmented and attention-deficit culture than television ever did. Social media platforms, with their emphasis on visual appeal and emotional engagement, have further trivialized public discourse, turning political debates into shouting matches and reducing complex issues to sound bites and memes. The legacy of Amusing Ourselves to Death extends beyond media criticism to encompass broader concerns about the state of democracy and the future of public discourse. Postman's work serves as a warning against the dangers of complacency and the importance of maintaining a critical perspective on the media we consume. It reminds us that the health of a democracy depends on the ability of its citizens to engage in reasoned debate, to think critically, and to resist the allure of easy entertainment. The contemporary relevance of Amusing Ourselves to Death is perhaps most evident in the phenomenon of fake news and the rise of misinformation. In an age where information is readily available but often unreliable, the ability to distinguish between credible sources and propaganda becomes more crucial than ever. Postman's work provides a framework for analyzing the ways in which media technologies can be used to manipulate public opinion and to undermine trust in institutions. It also underscores the importance of media literacy education, which equips individuals with the skills to critically evaluate information and to resist the seductive power of disinformation. Moreover, Postman's critique of television's impact on education foreshadowed many of the challenges facing educators today. With the proliferation of digital devices and online learning platforms, students are increasingly accustomed to receiving information in a fragmented and entertaining format. Educators must, therefore, find ways to engage students in meaningful learning experiences that cultivate critical thinking skills and promote intellectual curiosity, without succumbing to the temptation of turning education into mere entertainment. The enduring legacy of Amusing Ourselves to Death lies in its ability to provoke critical reflection on the relationship between media, technology, and culture. Postman's work challenges us to consider the ways in which our media environment shapes our perceptions, influences our behavior, and ultimately affects the health of our democracy. It reminds us that maintaining a vibrant and informed public discourse requires constant vigilance and a commitment to resisting the seductive power of amusement. In a world saturated with information and entertainment, Postman's message remains as relevant and urgent as ever. We must not allow ourselves to be amused to death. We must actively cultivate critical thinking skills, engage in reasoned debate, and demand more from our media than mere entertainment. The stakes, as Postman eloquently argue, are nothing less than the survival of democracy itself.